Namaste, everyone. Today we're celebrating Swami Vivekananda's birthday, and we have Swami Bhajanananda Maharaj and Swami Vivekananda Maharaj here from Kali Mandir. And so they gave this beautiful puja, an offering Swamiji. Today they're going to speak, Swami Bhajanananda Maharaj will speak on Swami Vivekananda as the Bhakta. Normally we think of Swamiji, we think of him as sort of the Gyana. I believe was he Bhakti on the he was Bhakti on the inside and Gyana on the outside. Swamiji is going to sort of dig up the inside of Swamiji, excavate a little bit, and see what kind of Bhakta was Swami Vivekananda. And so that's what we're going to discover today. So thank you for coming, and let's explore Swamiji as the Bhakta.
Om Mangalam Gurudevaya Devya Matriksha Mangalam Mangalam Bhakta Vrindevyo Sarva Lokaya Mangalam Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Arapadme Priyastritva Pranamami Muhur Muhur. Can you hear me okay? Oh, there it is. So, very happy to be here. How many years have you been doing this?
A lot.
Maybe 2017, I think you started in 2016.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to have a great honor, one of the honors of the year, to be invited to do Swamiji's puja every year and to be able to worship at this beautiful shrine. I first came here and I was around 16, 17 years old. I remember the shrine was so living. These pictures are so living, so it's very unusually living, actually. It's rare. I mean, every picture of Thakur Maha Swamiji is living, but there's the term in the term Jagrat. When you go to a temple, there's many statues of Kali, but she's Jagrat. It's living. So I think these pictures also are unusually living. So it's a great honor to be here and worship, and that they accept my worship, invite me back every year. And so every year, Swamiji asked me to speak, and I'm always nervous speaking, and it's not my, but I end up having to do it a lot. But rarely, but I'm especially nervous about talking about Swami Vivekananda, because you know, Swamiji made a very interesting statement about Holy Mother. He says, Thakur, we know the world, we know something of Sri Ramakrishna's greatness, right? But Holy Mother is hidden. How great her real greatness, we don't know. And it's interesting with Swami Vivekananda, everyone knows his greatness. He's a universal hero, right? But I think also he's even more hidden than Holy Mother in a certain sense. He's more hidden to me, right? It's very. So actually, I was thinking, we were talking, Swamiji was asking what we want to speak. I thought, Swami Vivekananda the Bhakta. I always think of him as a Bhakta. Like you said, parts of his life like that, but I'm very nervous about interpreting his life. His life is mysterious. Although we have historical data, what he said, where he said it, what he did, some things of what he did. But it's somebody with such a tremendous inner world, such a tremendous emotional life, right? What his motivation, what's his understanding was, I'm very nervous about speaking, right? So we know some things, we can contemplate a few things that we know about his life story, but what his inner feeling comes out in his life, but also they colored his words. He had so many, of course, we know Swami Vivekananda primarily because of teachings. We have his teachings. We have volumes of his teaching, volumes of his words, such original thinking, right? So I was thinking also, we'll cover a little bit of Swami Vivekananda as a devotee, but also as a devotee, he's also a teacher. He's a teacher of devotion, right? We think of Swami Vivekananda as a teacher of Vedanta. Why? Because he's a Vedantist. He's a great Vedantin, so he's a perfect teacher of Vedanta. He's a teacher. He's a great teacher of Jnana because he's a Jnani. Right? He's a great teacher of karma. He's a selfless worker. He's a great teacher of national pride and patriotism. He was a patriot. You know, each one of these things you can put into him. But he was also a Bhakta, right? And therefore his teachings on Bhakti are really sublime. So I thought maybe we can skim a few of his important teachings from the Bhakti Yoga. So,
can you guys hear in the back? Can you hear over there? Can you hear okay? Can you guys hear okay? All right.
Okay. So actually, during the puja, we start with his dhyan mantras. I thought I explain or we meditate on his dhyan mantra to give a little beginning the clue. Vishvacharyam Jagat Vandyam Vivekananda Rupinam Vishwacharya. He is the teacher of the world, universal teacher of the world. Vishwacharya means world. Vishwa means universe of everything, the whole manifestation. So it's not just a teacher of the world. Oh, he's a teacher of the whole world, has to accept his teaching. Not like that. He's a universal teacher. Maybe that's a better poetic way of saying it, right? It means his teachings are applicable to everybody, not just to a small group of disciples, to a small cult, to even to I can't even say a small religion, even a world religion. His teachings go beyond that. So everything he said can be interpreted as something very specific, but he always universalizes it. He said, I'm doing it, I'm only speaking what's good for universal humanity. He made that statement, right? Vishwacharam Jagat Vandyam. He's worshipped, honored and venerated by everyone, by the whole world, right? Vivekananda Rupinam, who was in this form, who came as Swami Vivekananda. Vireshwarat Samutpanam. He is born of Vireshwara. So this is a story. Maybe you know his mother. I think he had older brothers, but she wanted to have another child. And there is a deity in Benares named Vireshwara Shiva, where people go and make vows and pujas in order to give children. Vireshwara means someone who's viral, right? So he helps people conceive children. And so I don't think she went. I think she sent a family member to do special puja in Benares to Vireshwara Shiva. And Swami Vivekananda was born. She always believed that he was born by the grace of Vireshwara, right? But then in our tradition, the Ramakrishna tradition, Thakur made some statements and the brother disciples made some statements. He says he's our Vireshwara, right? He's born of Vireshwara, but he is for us, maybe literally, maybe ontologically, he's Lord Shiva, right? Veda also means heroic, right? I mean, but at least for us, he's Shiva, right? So there's I think Nag Mahashaya made a statement once on Shiva Ratri, he came and worshipped Swamiji. He says, he's not Shiva, for us he's Shiva, but maybe he's a Shiva. So this is a play of Vireshwara Samutpanam, Saptarishi Mandala Gatam. He came from the realm of the mandala, the circle of 7 rishis. And this is a reference to the 7 stars. What do we call that in English? The 7 sages. In English we call the red bear or something. What do they call it?
The Big Dipper.
The Big Dipper, and so the Big Dipper is surrounded by. So we have a pole star surrounded by, and looking at the stars, we can guide our life. The pole star gives the guidance, right? And so it's believed that each one of those stars is a rishi, and that was given that position as a star, right? And so we look up in the sky and see the Saptarishis, but actually refer the 7 stars, but really these are all considered a realm of 7 sages. So there's another reference. Sri Ramakrishna told a story of a vision he had, a dream or a vision. He said, he went higher and higher and higher, right? And so this language is very mysterious. Everything's mysterious. It says, past the realm of the duality into the realm of the non-dual, right? And then past the non-dual realm. That means there's a realm beyond non-duality. This throws our theology askew, right? Our stacking doesn't always work, right? Or maybe there's something beyond what we think, right? Beyond the realm of non-duality into a divine realm beyond non-duality. And there was a group of 7 sages meditating, the Saptarishis. And he says, I saw a small boy, and later the interpretation is that small boy was Sri Ramakrishna himself. Small boy go to one of those sages and kind of tug on his clothes. He was lost in meditation, tugged on his beard or clothes, tapped him, and he slightly opened his eyes, and the boy, by sign, said, I'm going down, you follow. Right? And so Thakur said when he saw Narendra, that he saw Narendra several times in different visions according to the explanation before he actually met him, right? But that's one of the references. I saw that he was at one of those sages that came down. By implication, I mean that little boy is Sri Ramakrishna, who was about to take his incarnation, and he told Sri Ramakrishna, he says, I'm going, you follow. So this is a beautiful line. Jnana Bhakti Pradataram. He gives Prada what? Jnana and Bhakti, knowledge and devotion. That's our theme, right? He's also a teacher, not just a teacher of Jnana, he's a teacher of Bhakti, right? Padmaksha, who has lotus-like eyes, large, beautiful lotus eyes. This is poetry, but it's actuality with Swami. Swamiji had large lotus-like eyes, right? You know, we do that when we're trying to glorify who has lotus-like eyes. Not everybody who says they have lotus-like eyes have lotus-like eyes, right? Swamiji had lotus-like eyes, for sure. It's an actual, and Gauda Vigraham, and he was golden complexion, right? And maybe shining, you say. Dhyayat Devam, we meditate on Devam, that God, that divinity, Jyoti Punjam, right? That Devam Jyoti Punjam, a cluster of divine light. What a beautiful way to think of Swamiji. That radiant cluster of divine light, right? Loka Kalyana Karini, who is only doing, he's ever and always doing good to the world. Loka Kalyan, he's always working for what's best for the world, right? So what a beautiful, this is a great beginning. Whoever Vivekananda is, whoever Swami Vivekananda is, and whatever he taught, right? This is a beautiful summary. He was teaching Jnana and Bhakti, and he's only doing good to the world. So with that, we can think, let's think. So if that little boy was Sri Ramakrishna, who went to a realm beyond non-duality, found one of the ancient sages mentioned in Vedas and Puranas, and brought him down to earth, we have to think, who is Sri Ramakrishna? That he could, and who is he? We know Swami Vivekananda, as per this story, is one of the rishis of the Saptarishi Mandala. But who is Sri Ramakrishna? So we say Avatara Varishtaya, he is the greatest incarnation, he is an avatar. Right. So we think there's many, and of course, you know, Sri Ramakrishna himself said he was Rama, he was Krishna, came in this body as Sri Ramakrishna. There's an avatar claim of Sri Ramakrishna, revelation, right? Especially those words are spoken to Swami Vivekananda. So, what does it mean to be an avatar? That's, if we can't understand Sri Ramakrishna, we can't understand Vivekananda. We definitely can't understand Ramakrishna's avatarhood, right? But in the Gita, there's some clues. Right, in the Gita it says, whenever Dharma declines and Adharma rises, I'm born. And yuge, again and again. In every age I come to when Dharma declines and Adharma rises. So if Sri Ramakrishna is an avatar, if that's one of the reasons given of an avatar's descent or manifestation, right, that means there was a decline in Dharma and a rise of Adharma, right? So we can think, of course, we're looking back, he must be an avatar, there must be a decline in Dharma. What was the decline in Dharma? So when we can think of it, the Indian culture, Hindu culture, the Dharmic culture springs from the spiritual divine realization of sages. That's our claim. That's our belief, right? Whatever the scriptural source and arguing of the history and the dates, stuff like that, whatever it is, it springs from the divine realization, right? And through so many turmoils, even the last 1,000 years, it was by foreign rule, almost 1,000 years, right? Right? It's still, Hinduism has survived, right? The Vedic Dharma, Sanatana Dharma has survived, right? In one article, Swami Vivekananda helped me. I wrote an article on Vivekananda and Kali once, and he added a line very nice. He says, what was it? The eternal foundations, Hinduism's or Sanatana Dharma's eternal foundations were resilient and adaptable to the ever-changing details of history, right? The foundations, history can change, but the foundations weren't changed, right? But something happened. Even after 700 years of foreign rule, then the British rule for 200 years, almost around 200 years, plus or minus, I forget, right? But at the end, it was beginning to crack, right? It says that was Swami Shardananda and the great master. He in Lila Prasanga he mentions it. He says that because what do? They began to adjust the educational system, right? And actually, Sri Ramakrishna was born the very year that the education system was changed. The traditional education system in India was changed, and actually, not only the Gurukulam, but even madrasas, the Muslim schools, the religious education, both Islamic and Hindu, were replaced by secular and Western government style of education, right? So there's some mystery to there. And so what's happening as you had a new educated group, right, who looked to the oppressors, right? And Swami Shardananda makes a big deal about this, and he says that they began to think, oh, the reason we've lost our independence is because of our superstition, right? Look at the West, how powerful they've been able to control us. We should be like them. There's some move like this, right? And so they began to. Swami Sharana says that he analyzes that they began to think, but how could the very thing that's weakening be the solution, right? That's the problem. We think the solution is the thing that weakened us, right? So I'm forgetting the line who said it, but it's something like India is, as this problem is happening, India was preparing its answer. Richard Schiffman. Richard Schiffman, have you seen that book, Ramakrishna, The Prophet of the New Age? The beautiful poetic book. That's right. That one. India was preparing her answer, right? So the answer is Ramakrishna. That was the emotional move of the book, right? So, so if he's an avatar, right? Well, let's think of it this way: the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna see in him the answer, right? We have to understand it from our perspective. We see in Sri Ramakrishna, they saw in Sri Ramakrishna the answer to the crying needs, not just of India, right, but even of the world, right? So Sri Ramakrishna, we know something of his life is from childhood, such sincerity, divine from birth, but such sincerity and longing for truth, adherence to truth and longing for God. And then he became a priest of the Kali temple, right? Through a long history, complicated history with his family, he became a priest of the Kali temple. But his sincerity was such that whatever he did it with sincerity. He saw the image of Kali he was asked to worship. And he said, are you real? Right? Are you just a stone? And he said, others have seen you. Ram Prasad saw you. Komalakanta saw you. The sages saw you. Are you real? And through his longing, it's said, so she was not through his sadhana, through his longing, she responded. Right? Through his love and longing. Right? And the Divine Mother responded. And his first, we consider a vision, although it's not exactly a vision, it was an overwhelming experience. His first experience, encounter with a living Kali, not just a statue of Kali, was like overwhelmed by waves of bliss and of light and consciousness. Everything became, he saw, not everything became, he saw that everything was consciousness, right? People were consciousness, the deity was conscious, the temple was consciousness, this Kosh Kushi is consciousness. Somebody mentioned the other day, we were reading this line, it said in the gospel, says the articles of worship, right? It says Kosh Kushi. These specifically, if you want to know what he saw, even those things, when I was worshiping, these are consciousness. Everything is conscious, right? But so we said, oh, he didn't have a vision of Kali, he saw a vision of consciousness. But then he was all on the floor going, ma, ma, ma. Right? And then he made comments that whenever I was in despair, I saw her, his abaya and vada, her boon was her forehand, giving boons. And so that he identified that universal being, the essence of everything, the living essence of everything, as Kali. So we can say one thing we know about Sri Ramakrishna, right? The greatest mystery of this age, right? He was definitely a lover, a bhakta of Kali, that we know, right? So after this first experience, the Divine Mother, he himself used this language. The Divine Mother showed him again and again how she's worshipped through different traditions, how she's at the heart of so many different traditions. She sent him gurus for the complicated techniques of Tantra, the variegated variety, the Bhava, the Vaishnavism, right? Of course, we know from Totapuri, the abstractions of yoga and Vedanta, right? And each one of them, he had the experiences promised, mentioned, right? Described in the texts of those traditions. But beyond it, he saw his Divine Mother, right? He saw her shining at the heart of all these. Even the practices and experiences of from their perspective, the foreign traditions, right, of Christianity and Islam. He saw the Divine Mother shining. And therefore, Sharananda interprets, he says that this view that all religions are true, or what is it, that so many views, so many paths, right? That itself, he says, was not a philosophical, intellectual, hip, modern understanding, right? It was his own experience. It was based upon his own mystical experience. The Divine Mother revealed this to him, right? So Sharananda says, this is the Divine Mother's message to Sri Ramakrishna. And therefore this is, and she used Sri Ramakrishna to give this message to the world. The message that the Avatar brought, part of the message the Avatar brought, is this universality, this broadness, right? But that was a gift of the Divine Mother, right? But Sri Ramakrishna lived in a small room on the bank of the Ganga, singing and dancing and swooning and teaching, right? To a small group of people. Like, are we here? We're here because of him, right? But he didn't come here, right? So somebody brought that message. This message the Divine Mother used, it gave to Sri Ramakrishna, Divine Mother's message, right? He needed somebody to preach it, right? And so he saw that Swami Vivekananda would be that person. He recognized him even in that opening vision. I'm coming down, you come down to help me, right? And when he saw him, he recognized him. But there was a problem. Swami Vivekananda was also a great Bhakta, even from the beginning. Think when he met Sri Ramakrishna, what was the first thing he asked Sri Ramakrishna? You remember? Have you seen God? That means he's looking for God. He's a searcher, right? He's passionate, looking for truth, looking for God. He's longing for God, right? And he met somebody who gave a positive. He asked many famous people. We know the story. Many famous people gave clever answers, impressed by the young man, right? But Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, I've seen God. I see him just as much as I see you, even more real. And you also can see, right? What a powerful thing, right? But there's a problem. But what's the God Sri Ramakrishna saw? Kali, in the heart of everything. His understanding, not just Kali the way we think of it, a universalized and overwhelming Kali, right? Can Vivekananda accept this? He was trained. He was trained by the Brahma Samaj. Right? He was a member of the Brahma Samaj, and they're also devotees. Thakur called them devotees, right? But they had some sectarian restrictions. They did not accept God was form. They did not accept image worship. They did not accept avatar doctrine, right? And so with Sri Ramakrishna, you get avatar, you get God with form, personal gods, personal and impersonal, God with form, human images like this, right? So Swami Vivekananda struggled, right? I have one line that many people know. I can find it here. I haven't got to Bhakti Yoga yet. Sorry. Swami himself, I think he's talking to Nivedita. How I used to hate Kali. This is talking about his training under Sri Ramakrishna. How I used to hate Kali. The God he claimed that he saw when that attracted him, right? Right? And all her ways, right? That was the ground of my 6-year fight, that I would not accept her. Right? I loved him, Sri Ramakrishna, you see, and that was what held me to him. I saw his marvelous purity. I felt his wonderful love. His greatness had not yet dawned on me then. All that came afterward, when I had given in. Given in to what? The Kali, right? Right. At that time, I thought him a brain sick baby. So Thakur, not just thought, Thakur would say that you're a brain sick baby. Your visions are hallucinations, right? And you can see you don't even speak disrespectfully to the Guru. What to speak and make such criticism, and nobody else could explain to Thakur. But Thakur never was bothered by these type of Swamiji's words as part of his path, right? Right. I hated it, and then I too had to accept her. He too had to accept Ma, right? And so the Divine Mother, maybe you've had this experience, right? We have a friend, Reverend Zoe, who says that she moves the furniture around, right? When you have turmoil in your life, she's moving furniture around. And yeah, I love this image. Is so good. You know, she's moving. I sometimes complain about something. And say, she's moving the furniture around. It's like, yeah. So Ma was moving the furniture around in Swamiji's life, right? He had a tremendous family problems. His father died. Although they went from a rich family to being in debt, he couldn't find a job. So much despair, right? And it came in his mind, even though he didn't believe in Kali, he hated her, or all that, whatever she meant, that superstition. He thought to his mind, Sri Ramakrishna has a direct relationship with Kali. If he asks Kali to bless me and my family, Ma will listen to him. Right? He had that much faith, right? It shows you even like this point, I'm an atheist. He's not even when he was boldly declaring atheism, he did it out of love for God. His search and struggle, right? His atheism, I like Swamiji's atheism. Even his atheistic period, I like that. I want to be at least that type of atheist, not the type of religious person we become. Right. So he says, this is Swamiji's word. It occurred to me that God grants the master's prayers, so I asked him to pray on behalf of my family's financial crisis would be overcome. I was sure that he wouldn't refuse for my sake. I rushed to Dakshineshwar and inopportuned him, saying, Sir, you must speak to Divine Mother. Speak to Ma, so that my family's financial problems can be solved. The master replied, Thakur said, I can't make such demands. Why don't you go and ask the Divine Mother yourself? Right. Actually, when he says, I've talked to her, I've prayed to her, right, before, but she won't help you. You go, right? Uh, um, um, I replied, I don't know the mother. Please tell the mother for me. For me, I too, you have to, or I will not let you go. Right? So it says, pray to the mother. You go and pray to the mother. Thakur said, and he says, I don't know the mother. That's also a beautiful statement. Doesn't know it yet. That's about to change, right? Thakur said, go to the temple tonight and pray. Mother will grant whatever you ask for. I promise you that. This is a big statement. Thakur himself saying, go tonight. She'll answer, give you your prayer. My mother is the embodiment of pure consciousness, the power of Brahman. She has produced this universe by mere will. What can she not do if she wishes? When the master said that, I was fully convinced that all my suffering would cease as soon as I prayed to her. I waited impatiently for night. It was 9 p.m. The master told me to go to the temple. On my way, I was possessed by a kind of drunkenness and began to stagger. I firmly believed that I would see the mother and hear her voice. I forgot everything else and became absorbed in this thought. So Sri Ramakrishna, he trusted Sri Ramakrishna that whatever you ask she'll answer. Going there, he'd be like, I'll see her. And she forgot why he went, right? As I entered the temple, I saw that mother was actually conscious and living. I saw the mother was actually conscious and living, the fountainhead of infinite love and beauty. So I've read this so many, because we're Kali devotees and we're Ramakrishna devotees and we love Swamiji. We're always trying to find connections. This is a big one. But just think of it like she's actually living, a fountainhead of love, a fountainhead of the beauty, infinite love, infinite beauty pouring from her. A fountain. Imagine we have fountains outside, probably water pouring out. She's a living being pouring love and blessings. What an image, you know. This is Swamiji's own words, right? I bowed down to her and again praying, Mother, we should have asked, let my family let my family overcome their financial problems, right? But he didn't ask that. Grant me discrimination, grant me detachment, grant me divine knowledge and devotion, grant that I may see you with unobstructed, let me have your unobstructed vision always, right? He asked for 5 things, Vivek Dao, Vairagya Dao, Gyan Dao, Bhakti Dao, right? Give me discrimination, renunciation, jnana, that we'd expect, right? And but bhakti, he asked for, and Thakur said, whatever you ask for, she'll grant you. He asked for bhakti. Even if he hid it, he must have had bhakti, right? Just making our logical argument. Swamiji had to have bhakti, right? And uninterrupted vision. Let me see you always, right? So he went back to Sri Ramakrishna's room, drunk, divinely drunk, not literally drunk, as far as we know. He was divinely intoxicated, right? Those details aren't given, and divinely intoxicated. And so Thakur asked him, did you pray? No, I forgot to pray for that. Oh, go back again. Go back. And he went back. I prayed for that because she was so overwhelmed. This one I'll go. Now that I know she's living, and Thakur told me to, I'll go and pray to protect my family. And again, Bhakti Dao, Vairagya Dao, Vivek Dao, like this, uninterrupted vision. I forget the Bengali for the uninterrupted vision, right? And again, he came back. Did you ask? No, I forgot. Right, go back again. No, you're doing, this is your Maya. This is your trick, Swami said to Thakur, right? You have to, I've already prayed for what I'm praying for. You have to bless my family, right? And then Thakur famously says that your family will not be in want of with simple food and simple clothes, right? Like rice bat, bal dat, bal and clothes. And so of course, and sure enough, they were okay. They didn't become rich, but they lived. So I've heard one Swami, maybe somebody Chaitanya said that the Ramakrishna mission believes that this blessing is for everybody, right? That at least simple Ramakrishna devotees you won't find necessarily, right? Super rich, right? But simple, you surrender, you worship Sri Ramakrishna, your simple needs. If you have simple desires, those simple desires will be met. I've seen this in many cases. Very people with a tremendous physical suffering, they go to Thakur, they may not become rich. He's not the deity to make you rich. but he's a deity to give you devotion, knowledge, renunciation, discrimination, uninterrupted vision, right? But for that we need no anxiety. So may your simple problems be solved, right?
Swami, just referring to what you said
Yeah.
here. So why do you think Swami Vivekananda, who's so intensely attached to his family at that
Yeah.
time, it seems, and he goes in there, he wants his family to get out of these hardships, and he comes in there and he forgets that. His prayer is, as he said, Viveka Vairagya. Is that the play of Ma the Kali? Is that the play of Thakur? Or is that his own desire, hidden desire coming out?
That's a good question. He says it's Thakur's play, right? His Maya. I think he blames Thakur for this. I think, right? Right. This is, I don't have it in my notes, but if I remember properly. But actually think about that. That means this, but it has to be if it's Thakur's grace, Thakur is pulling out his real desire, right? The immediate desire, the desire of the problem of the moment is his family's financial suffering, right? But that's not the real problem. That's the problem he has. That's the immediate situation, right? But there's an ontological problem. There's a foundational problem, right? An ache in the heart, something missing, right? And to a devotee, to not have union with the beloved, to a lover not to know or be union with the beloved, with the beloved, that is the real thing. So maybe in that moment, the real call of the soul comes out. Not this, Thakur said, if you see God, you'll ask for hospitals and wells, right? It's like, no, it's good. We need to do good work and build hospitals and dig wells, right? Right. But if you see, your real desire comes out, right? What Thakur used the language of a magnet and a needle, right? In the presence of a magnet, the needle points towards, the needle is drawn, right? So when you're in the real presence, the divine living presence, you can't help. So in a certain, and Thakur said, what happens if the needle isn't direct pulled towards? If you have a needle and you have a magnet and the magnet doesn't pull the needle, right? It's the nature of a magnet to draw a metal, and it's the nature of metal to be drawn by a magnet, right? If it's not it's not because there's no attraction. The attraction can't be felt because it's maybe Thakur said covered in mud. Right. If it's encrusted in mud, the needle won't feel the pull or won't show the pull. You wash the mud, immediately the needle comes, right? Mana Shuddhi, Thakur said, right? When the mind is pure, automatically devotion you don't have to do to get anything to get devotion. You have devotion. You have to uncover it, and it will naturally happen. So maybe the problems were part of the purification. The desperation was just exact moment for that. The mud can come off and the real call comes. And that night, he went back to Sri Ramakrishna's room. Sri Ramakrishna taught him a song. We were hoping that Komalakanta would be here. He's in Mexico. Right? Komalakanta was going to sing that song, Shama Sangeet. Right? What is that? Ma Tanghi. I'll give the translation from the Vivekananda's translation. Mother, thou art the sole redeemer. Thou art the support of the three gunas, higher than the most high. Thou art compassionate, I know, who takes away the bitter grief. Thou art the earth. Thou art in earth, in water. Thou liest at the root of all. In me, in every creature, thou hast thy home. In me, in every creature, thou hast thy home. Though clothed with form, yet thou art formless reality. Sandhya thou art, and Gayatri, thou dost sustain this universe. Mother, and help art thou of those who have no help but thee, O eternal beloved of Shiva. Right? And so Thakur himself taught him this song. The whole night, Swamiji was singing this song. And in the morning, right, other people came. I forget who came. Some people came, and Thakur was so excited. He says, Narendra has accepted Kali. Narendra, did you know? Did you see last night? Narendra accepted Kali. It's good, isn't it good that Narendra accepted Kali? I would say it was good, right? Because this is the person who's destined to teach the maybe not openly preach Kali. That's Swamiji obviously didn't do. He did speak privately about his devotion to Kali, right? That was not he would, but his message Swamiji gave is him rewording appropriate to the setting, to the audience, and to the moment, right? It's Ramakrishna's Kali's message, the universal message, right? That's so it could. How can the instrument for Kali's message not accept Kali? How can the instrument not have devotion, right? That had to happen, right? So Swamiji said, in a private conversation when he said, "Why don't you?" Because people, his devotees, close devotees, even in America, saw his devotion to Kali. He'd speak to it. He'd share his mind, right? Um, um, and then he said, "No, no, I won't. I won't. It's my own thing. My Kali worship is my own thing, right? It's private, right?" Then he used that line, I will speak what is good for universal humanity, right? And then he says, Kali worship is not necessary, is not a necessary step in every religion. He made it universalized. Not that Christians have to worship Kali, right? But Kali's message that actually, what did Sri Ramakrishna do? He sat on the edge of the, is something we've been meditating on recently, at the edge of the church, right? Looking in, Ma, oh Kali, oh Ma, how your devotees worship you, how your Christian devotees worship you, right? So the Christian devotees are worshiping her, as per Sri Ramakrishna's understanding, right? So, but he said, you don't, not that they have to then, and have to know, we have to go in and tell them that they should really worship Kali, right? They're worshiping Kali. This is Sri Ramakrishna's broad-mindedness, right? Says the Upanishads teach us, all there is into religion. Swamiji is focusing on Vedanta, right? Kali worship is my special fad. You've never heard me preach it or read any of my preachings I'm preaching in India. I only preach what is good for universal humanity. If there is any cautious, curious message which entirely mine, I keep it secret. So he gets like his own Kali worship was secret. I never taught it to anybody, right? But then he said, you see, I cannot but believe that there is somewhere a great power, right, that thinks of herself as feminine. Right? God, this is the supreme deity, thinks of itself as feminine, right? And is called Kali, the mother, and mother, Ma, right? Then I'll just say, because we're talking about Ma, a few, Swamiji, there's not many things Swamiji's directly talking about Kali, but a few things we have just to fill in the meditation. Mother is the first manifestation of power and is considered a higher idea than father, right? With the name of mother comes the idea of Shakti, divine energy and omnipotence. Just as a baby believes its mother is to be all powerful, able to do anything, just as a baby believes in my mother all powerful. Divine Mother is Kundalini sleeping in us. Without worshiping her, we can never know ourselves. All merciful, all powerful, omnipresent are attributes of the Divine Mother. She is the sum total of the energy of the universe. Every manifestation of power in the universe is Mother. She is life, she is intelligence, she is love. She is a universe, yet separate from it. She is the universe and separate from it. She is a person and can be seen and known, just as Sri Ramakrishna saw her and knew her. This is his promise, right? Establishing the idea of mother, we can do anything. Right? He's speaking from his own experience. He knew the mother, and look what he did, type thing. She quickly answers prayers. She can show herself to us in any form at any moment. Divine Mother can have form, rupa, and nama, name, or be without name and form. And as we worship her in these various aspects, we can rise to pure being, having neither name nor form. So these little bits, his own, what he's willing to share. But not even about Kali, he barely spoke about Sri Ramakrishna. Right? We have maybe two lectures. I think the one about my master, it's the same lecture he gave it once in the US and once in London, I think. And then those are merged together if you look under my master, right? There's only a couple places where it's understandable he didn't openly preach Kali. He barely openly preached Ramakrishna, right? He quoted Sri Ramakrishna sometime by name, a few places. Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna said something like this, right? But actually, if you read any of his lectures, continuously he's either quoting scriptures, and he's quoting scriptures or summarizing scriptures, but with Sri Ramakrishna's interpretation continuously, right? You can begin to notice almost like in the Bhakti Yoga, it's like almost every paragraph you can say, oh, what a unique, novel way Swamiji said this. Unique and novel to us. He's rewording what we find in the Gatamrita almost every time. Right? Ramakrishna's teachings are throughout Swami Vivekananda, but he never spoke him. He said that people already have saviors and gurus and avatars, right? The West already has enough. We don't need I don't need to get another one, replace one, right? He said, but Sri Ramakrishna, he will preach himself, spread his ideas, these universal ideas. And Chardana says, somebody may ask, when they get this gift, where does this gift come from? Who is the giver of the gift? And then they may look to Sri Ramakrishna, then they may look to Kali. Right? He says, but we won't, but Sri Ramakrishna and Kali will never demand it. Right? The gift is the great blessing, right? With no ego. And then we see, of course, and then so like I was thinking, oh, what are the scenes of Swamiji's life where he showed devotion, right? His whole coming to the West was an act of devotion, right? But Swami Vivekananda's God is not just a statue, right? It's not just not just a deity. Can't just a deity. Deity is there, it's not just Brahman or something like that. You can't use that language, right? Right. But he learned from Sri Ramakrishna and his own innate qualities. It's universal, right? And it's in human beings, right? You are divine. The worship of humans, right? You can go through so many talks he gave at different temples in South India. He says the temple worship is good, but as long as you don't see Shiva and the poor, your worship of Shiva will not have any effect. Glorifying temple worship. But what about this? This puja is really, really nice. But what about this puja, right? So Swamiji, you could see even that's his passion and emotion and his devotion. The God he worshipped is not once again not just Kali or just Brahman, right? It's also us. It's also the motherland. It's also people. It's the world itself, right? And it's Sri Ramakrishna, right? So if you think how much Swami, I was this morning. I was like, oh, I should read this real quick. So I was trying to read one article that Ushama wrote, right, called Vivekananda, A Life of the Great Sacrifice, right? The aspect of Swami Vivekananda we don't always think, right? I didn't get a chance to. I didn't copy it or anything. I just glanced at it to remember some points, right? Where her thing is that even the coming to the West was out of his passion. What a sacrifice, right? And he even says, "I'm coming." He says, He's trying with a scheme to help India, to help the poor, right? His living God, right? So this is his coming here was a great sacrifice. How much discomfort? And we think, we love the pictures of Swamiji and all the famous people he met. But if you read some of the conversations and the notes, right, there's an embarrassing quality to it. Also, there's one point where he's trying to talk Vedanta to somebody on the golf course. There's a rich person. He says, yes, I should go golfing and you can tell me about your religion. As this rich man is playing golf. And Swamiji, who is Swamiji and who is this foolish man, right? But Swamiji was doing out of love for it, trying to help India, trying to help the world, right? Maybe this will help. I need this man's help, right? So Swamiji in leather shoes and slacks, literally in the outfit of the oppressors, right? It's like, but he did it, and you could see, but not only did he do it for the love of India, but then he said, I fell in love with these people too. He saw their sincerity, right? Even every aspect is his love and devotion, I think. But then there's a great scene when he got one of his pinnacles, what we know of his emotional realizations was in Kashmir. And Swamiji and myself were just in these places. We went to Amarnath, the ice lingam in Kashmir, as well as with the Kirbhavani and a few very important places in Kashmir. And they're important on their own. It's a pilgrimage. These are pilgrimage places mentioned in the scriptures. Tens of millions of people have gone to these places, right? But they're special also for us because Swamiji was in those places. And we know so when we go to Shiva, it's like, oh, that Shiva himself, that is wonderful. But you also think Swamiji had a vision of Shiva here, right? Or we go to Kirbhavani, such an important place, but Swamiji had visions and experiences there. We can think of those things also, right? But what did he have after the experience of Kirbhavani and Amarnath? He became overwhelmed, and he began to, I think it was 4th of July, he was worshiping. He had a group of Western disciples with him. They're on a houseboat, right? And he was worshiping the devotees, putting flowers on their head, right? What is it? He says, no more Hari Om, right? Now it is all Ma, right? And he was all this work I've done, and all these plans like that. He gave his innate nature of a simple child of divine mother came out, right? So we read that they were a little nervous about this, right? This change in Swami. Slowly, he came back to America after that also, right? And continued his work in India and the West, right? But you get a little glimpse of the gushing forth of his devotion, right? If you read those sections, where would those be? I think Nevidatta's writing sheet. Mostly Nevidatta. We have those because of Nevidatta. How much time do you have? Some of these? I didn't get to them.
10 minutes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
I haven't got to my notes yet. So this is where, okay. Jumping ahead, right? So this is just this is my also like a little bit about Swami Ramakrishna and Vivekananda, because obviously this is where it comes from, right? So Swamiji was a Bhakta. He was many things, but he was a Bhakta. And Swamiji said, oh, outside a Jnani, inside a Bhakta. I forget who said it. I was trying to remember who said that. Remember who said that? They said, they made a comment that Sri Ramakrishna was Jnana on the inside, and outside he was a Bhakta. Right? And Swamiji was Bhakti on the inside, or Bhakta on the inside, and a Jnani on the outside. Right? So there's something to that, and we have to think, what does that mean? Sri Ramakrishna, who's Sri Ramakrishna, what he experiences, we can't even imagine, right? But he manifested as a devotee. He lived as a devotee, right? And he taught as a devotee. He taught devotion to the devotees, right? Swami Vivekananda had he was, you could see from the beginning, he's a pure devotee, a passionate devotee, right? Passionate lover, a lover of God, a lover of man, right? Lover of the world, right? But in order to serve and to worship man, God, and the world, and Sri Ramakrishna, he had to teach. He had to teach in a certain way. He had to clothe himself in bhakti. Talk about himself as, I'm just a little child at the feet of that old man. He always identified as a simple bhakta, right? But he presented it. But what was his presentation? A lion. We call the lion of Vedanta, the cyclonic monk. All these terms we use. The heroic monk of India. The patriot. He had this presentation. But he said, my real nature, I'm a little boy sitting at mother's feet, at Thakur's feet. So he was a teacher. What did he teach? Right? So he taught Jnana because he was a Jnani. He taught Vedanta because of Vedanta, as I mentioned. He taught yoga, or the yogas. He was a yogi, the 4 yogas, but also Raja because he was a yogi. Right? He taught yoga, he was a worker. He taught Thakur's message of universal pluralism, universalism and religious pluralism, because he was a pluralist and universalist, right? He taught love of mankind, of humankind, because he loved mankind. He taught service to the country because he served his country, right? And he taught bhakti because he was a bhakta. And so we have the great treasures of his works. We have the primary amongst them. We have the 4 yogas. And of course, Jnana Yoga is the masterpiece. That's an intellectual masterpiece, right? Less known. I mean, Raja Yoga also, it's a different type of book, but also very important. A great commentary on Yoga Sutra and Yoga, right? Karma Yoga is a small book, but very important. Bhakti Yoga is, I think it's the smallest of the 4, right? I mean, I read it last night, preparing for the talk. I mean, one sitting at the computer, right? You can read it. It's not a very long book. Jnana Yoga will take you a month to untangle, to read it and untangle, right? Raja Yoga even more complicated, actually. Esoteric occultism, but Bhakti Yoga is simple, right? But tremendous. I mean, the simple ideas presented, right? Of course, intellectually presented. He's talking to an intellectual audience and lectures, right? But colored continuously with these teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, these universal teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. So I thought we could do in the last 9 minutes. Okay, a little bit more than 9 minutes. Read a few things he says, as we see him as a great bhakta and therefore a teacher of bhakti. It's like he was a great jnani and a teacher of jnana, right? We can just contemplate, kind of skim his bhakti yoga, right? So Swamiji learned, if he's teaching, he has to learn. You can't teach what you don't know. Right, and also Swamiji, he didn't know. You can't teach what you don't know, and you really can't teach what you don't practice, right? So he had to learn it, he has to practice it, and he has to teach it, right? So he learned it from Sri Ramakrishna. This is my claim, a simple thing. He learned it from Sri Ramakrishna. He himself practiced it, and he taught it to us, right? So also, even though he may not always be quoting, but actually is quoting Sri Ramakrishna, right? And at that time there was no Katamrita. We had no Katamrita to read Sri Ramakrishna's teachings directly. This is what we had. This is what we had with Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Vivekananda's 4 yogas. Right, this is the first. There's a few tracts and things like that. A few notes have come out. But practically speaking, the Western world's first exposure to Sri Ramakrishna with through Swamiji's talks on the 4 yogas. We're summarizing Sri Ramakrishna almost without quoting him. Right, he learned it from Thakur. He lived it and practiced it, and he taught it. And he's always summarizing and quoting Sri Ramakrishna. right? And Swamiji said about Sri Ramakrishna that Thakur is broad and deep, right? Even the Bhakti Yoga, I think he says that most people, traditions that are really deep and devotional, right, are very narrow, right? And traditions that are very broad and universal are shallow. He's commenting on the groups of his time, but we can find the groups of our time not much different. Sri Ramakrishna is unique. He's deep and broad, right? So if that's who we see Ramakrishna, he believes Sri Ramakrishna was, and he says we should be his followers, deep and broad. So these are the teachings, even in bhakti, right, which are about one-pointed devotion to an ideal, to the ideal, to the ishta, right? Have that both deep and broad. His opening line, these are like the great definition, the shining golden letters, right? Bhakti yoga is a real, genuine search after the Lord, right? So the definition of bhakti, a real and genuine search after the Lord, a search beginning, continuing, and ending in love. One single moment of the madness of extreme love of God brings us eternal freedom. If the goal of life is liberation, freedom, right? One moment of extreme love of God, right? It actually starts, this is the opening line. It closes with like, once you have it, what will you give up not to have it, right? And I think how he ends is that you can end there also. You can see that the book ends. Extreme love of God, that one moment of that maddening love of God that brings eternal freedom. Then he says, I'm skipping a few, not reading the whole thing. There is not really so much difference between jnana and bhakti as people sometimes imagine. We make this big difference. His prayer, Ma, Gyan Dao, Bhakti Dao. He said it almost I think actually it may have been Bhakti Gyan Bhakti Dao. I think it's even in the English translation, it's combined, give me knowledge and devotion. They're the same thing. They're one gift. You get both, right? We shall see as we go on that in the end they converge and finally meet in the same point. So bhakti and jnana are not that different. They merge at the same point, but they're not identical. The goal may be the same. They're two different goals, two different paths, but the goal is the same, right? So there are some differences. Because the one great advantage of bhakti, of these two goals, the bhakti and jnana, bhakti has some advantages, right? Is the easiest and the most natural way to reach the great divine end in view. He's also summarized in Sri Ramakrishna's teachings that Bhakti in Kali Yuga, the Naradiya Bhakti, the Bhakti is taught by Narada is the way. It's natural, right? The practices of devotion is he says no, there's many different ways, but this is easy. It's easy not because it's lower, it's easy because it's natural, right? It's our nature to love automatically, right? A great disadvantage, but so that's its advantage. It's natural and easy, right? I sometimes think, why would we do something hard? I want to do something easy. But there are disadvantages of bhakti. Its great disadvantage is that in its lower forms, it often degenerates into hideous fanaticism. And then Swami says actually that all the great fanatical traditions are devotional, right? It's easy to become fanatic. So so you can see we have to have devotion without fanaticism, right? That's not easy, but it is easy. We have the way. We've been taught this way. So then he starts. So what do we have devotion for? He has a chapter that's just. I did three sentences, but it's only 3-4 paragraphs. The first chapter, right? Then it goes on Ishvara. One moment of love of God. Who is God? Ishvara, right? So he says, who is Ishvara? From whom? Then he quotes from the scriptures. From whom are the birth, continuation, and dissolution of the universe. He is Ishvara, the eternal, the pure, the ever-free, the almighty, the all-knowing, the all-merciful, the teacher of all teachers. And above all, so that's a quote from the scriptures. And above all, he is the Lord whose nature is inexpressible love. That's my favorite definition. Who is that God? Whose nature is inexpressible love. That's God's nature. Then he says, these certainly are the definitions of a personal God. Bhakti Yoga often is in the personal realm, right? Right? Are there then two gods? The not this, the neti of the Upanishad, the Satchitananda, and the existence, knowledge, and bliss of the philosophers, and this God of love of the Bhaktas, right? There is Ishvara, who's the nature of love, and Satchitananda of Vedanta, are they two different deities, two different gods? Right? No, it is the same Satchitananda who is also the God of love, impersonal and personal in one. So this is Sri Ramakrishna, page after page after page of the Katamrita. God is personal and impersonal. Then he says, and many other things. Right. This is the idea of like the realm of the personal realm and the realm of form, the formless realm, and the realm above that. Right. There's many other things we can't understand. Even form and form, personal, impersonal, absolute, relative, whatever. These are categories. These are his categories for a limited mind. Yeah. The truth is beyond it. Right. Then he mentioned, I will just mention quickly, the Gauni and Pada stages of bhakti. That's Ramakrishna. You can get that in the Katamrita and the conversation with Vijay Krishna Goswami, right? There's a big chapter, very extremely technical. You have to understand a lot of, you have to understand a lot of Vaishnava theology, devotional theology, or you can get the Vaishnava theology from that chapter. It's a great summary of these points because technical stuff about different categories of devotion. The normal devotion we live called guna bhakti or sadhana bhakti, different terms like this. These are like we're doing puja, japa, pilgrimage, prostrations, right? Offering your food, eating prasad, going on pilgrimage, doing kirtan. This is Guru tells you this is what you should do. That's bhakti. You do it out of love, but it's not that you have that highest love. Then there's pada bhakti, supreme love, where you don't have to do anything. You're already there, right? That's the goal. That's the love that liberates. That one moment of that love gives one eternal freedom, right? So Swamiji talks about these two things. Thakur talks about it a lot. Then he goes, so Goni bhakti, right? Sadhana bhakti, right? You have to learn it from somebody, right? So then he introduces the idea of guru, right? He says, in the qualities, what's the guru? To have a guru means you have to be a disciple. To be a disciple means you have to have a guru. So then he gives traditional understandings of who the guru is and who the disciples are. And there's a lot of static about and confusion about the nature of the guru and disciple. Different texts, different groups say different things. But Swamiji gives classic definitions, right? The most reliable definition, both in Tantras and Puranas and Upanishads. He says the qualification of the guru should be, he should be Shastravid, Vedavid. He should know the scriptures. And that means inner knowledge, the outer knowledge, the outer meaning of the scriptures, as well as their inner import, right? And then he says he should be sinless, flawless, right? And he should have no motive for teaching, no selfish motive, right? And traditionally, to that list, Swamiji doesn't mention it, you should have a guru himself or herself. I mean, it has to be in parampara. Right? Guru is no guru, could be a saint and a great teacher, but not guru, because guru has to be in lineage. That's the general traditional understanding that can be pushed. There's exceptions to every rule, right? But about this knowing the essence of the scripture, then Swamiji he says, you see, people get lost in all kinds of exegesis of scripture and all kind of critical analysis. And I myself, at present, I'm lost in critical analysis, historical analysis, literary criticism of scripture, because of our academic work, we have to do this type of thing. But this is not what's meant by guru. To know the history of the language, the background of a text, right? How the text came down through history, how the change of the text, what are the historical influence. That's important for a scholar, right? But the devotee wants the essence, and the guru will teach the essence of the scripture. So then he quotes Ramakrishna and gives one of his classic examples, right? Bhagavan Ramakrishna used to tell a story about some men who went to a mango orchard and busied themselves in counting the leaves, the twigs, the branches, examining their color, comparing their size, and noting down everything most carefully, and who then got up learned discussions on each of these topics, which were undoubtedly highly interesting to them. Right? This is natural. They began to discuss all these things about the mango leaves and branches like that. But another man, more sensible than they, right, did not care for all these things and instead began to eat mangoes, right? And was he not wise? We call the other people scholars, right? Right? You can get a doctorate for that stuff, right? This one, but eating mangoes, you get full by eating mangoes, not a doctorate, right? So leave this counting of leaves and twigs and this note-taking to others. This kind of work has its proper place, right? But not here in the spiritual domain. This is not what the guru teaches, right? you never see a strong spiritual man among those leaf counters, right? So Sri Ramakrishna said, the purpose is to eat mangoes. Therefore, when you go to an orchard, eat the mangoes. Don't get distracted. You can start, and we can do like we sometimes I've seen it kind of like living joke that to be careful not to be rude to devotees. They come to the, like somebody comes to the Kali temple. Oh, beautiful! So, how was this built, and who built this, right? And like, oh, how did the image come from? It's very beautiful. How to do, they like with the history. That's all important stuff. Like going, but did you notice her? Like that's all good. First, do what you need to do, and then if there's time and you still have interest, you can ask, oh, who built this place? What's the history? How long have you been here? It's like, what type of wood is the altar made out of? It's like we can do like I love this altar. I know Swami Atmavivekananda, no, Stuart Maharaj probably made it. I imagine,
Yeah, actually,
It was made by two Debbie.
Okay. I know he made it. Stuart Maharaj made our altar. But it's funny because unless somebody asked about it, I have to say, oh yeah, Stuart Maharaj, Swami Atmavivekananda made our altar, right? But I never think. Usually, it's actually probably good that I don't think of it all the time. We're thinking about who's on the altar, who's enshrined in the shrine, right? Right. So it's a little play on this, right? So that should know the purpose of it. And then Swamiji gives. I don't have it here, but he says in the Gita you have to see. It's love and dedication, right? You read the Gita because it's about dharma. It's about dedicating your life and your actions to God. Take that, the beautiful message, and live that, and not necessarily all the commentaries and all the analysis of the text, right? Right. So these are different chapters. So he talks about guru and his quality of the guru. He talks about avatar, who and what an avatar is. He talks about mantra, especially the mantra Om. A beautiful description, also taken from the shot from Manumana Tantra. He's summarizing from texts like this. He talks about image worship, right, and the worship of symbols and of imagery. And last night I was talking to Usha before closing the temple. I was like, I have no chance. I have to create a lecture for tomorrow. We've been very busy lately, so there's not much chance to focus on this. And I mentioned this. Oh, Swamiji, he said, you don't need to quote Swamiji. You want his life is full of devotion of all these things, right? And then she recently went to a Khetri, right? Swamiji went. Now that the palace of Khetri is in the Ramakrishna mission, it's been beautifully restored, right? So if you ever, I want to my next trip to India, I want to go. It's in Rajasthan, right? So I think it's at the Maharaj Khetri where the king was criticizing image worship, right? And Swamiji said, well, take that picture down of your father or the previous king and put it on the ground and spit on it or something like this, right? Because I said, this is why it's not your father, right? So so it means the fact that Swamiji would say and do that means he was defending image worship, right? Because he had faith in this. He understood it in the way appropriate. He could explain. I can't even say he understood. Who knows how he understood it? He explained it in the way appropriate to the challenges of the moment, right? To the intellectual challenge or the Western critique of Indian religion, of idolatry, and things like this, right? So that's also again a wonderful thing. So in that scene, is he a jnana or a bhakta when he's arguing with the Maharaja Chetri? Interesting. He talks about the Ishta, right? So not just Ishvara, but Ishta, and that's the idea of that you have a deity that you focus on, and Ishta Nishta, one pointed devotion and attachment, right? But you see immediately, can you have an Ishta Nishta, without being sectarian, right? Usually Ishta Nishta is another, almost like a code word for sectarianism. Focus on one form, on one tradition, right? One pointed dedication, right? And there's something to that. One pointed dedication is the way you get focus on something, right? But then Swamiji says, one who aspires to be a bhakta must know that so many opinions are so many ways. What is I always forget the Bengali. Yato, what is it? Thank you. Yeah. So interesting. We always say, oh, so many different. What is it with normal translation? It's many religions, so many
faiths, so many.
Yeah, but actually, Swamiji translated it more accurately. So many opinions are different ways. Mat not mean religion. The word we use for mat is actually opinion. Every opinion is a way. Every view is a way. We don't even have the word religion. We have a view. Right, is a way. But he must know that all these various sects of different religions are various manifestations of the glory of the same Lord. They call you by so many names. They divide you as it were by different names. Yet in each one of these is to be found your omnipotence. You reach the worshiper through all these. There is no special time for your worship so long as the soul has intense love for you. You are so easy of approach. It is my misfortune that I cannot love you. Right? It's like you are in every form, every name is the one you love is there. Not only this, Swamiji says, the Bhakta must take care not to hate or even criticize those radiant sons of light or the founders of the various sects. Right? He must not even hear them spoken ill of. This is a standard. Never criticize the founders and luminaries of other religions and other traditions, or even hear them criticized. You should not be in there anybody in blaspheming mouth. You should walk away. Right. So Swamiji discusses so that's what he talks about the liberal and sympathetic sects lose the intensity, right, of religious feeling, and the intensely narrow sects, right, develop their love by hating everybody else. Swamiji says that's Swamiji Zinger. It seems like the great devotional sects get their love by hating everybody else, everybody who thinks differently than them. So this, he says, this is Swamiji was against this. So, Sri Ramakrishna vehemently talked about this, but then he also, Sri Ramakrishna said, you may have to in the beginning, a fence in a baby plant, right? So Swamiji also mentioned the same. He's quoting these whole things are right out of the Katamrita, without ever mentioning the Katamrita, right? Then he says, so who is Ishvara, who the Guru is, what the avatar is, what is mantra, right? He said, but then you have to, then he gives advice on how to cultivate. These are the Naradiya Bhakti, as taught by Narada, as Thakur said, right? So the importance of purity of food, of controlling the passions, the importance of inner purity, quality, like ahimsa and the satya. He mentioned he's summarizing the devotional scriptures, right? Right. But then he says, we must always remember that external practices, right, have value only as they help develop internal purity, right? The importance is internal purity, right? So again, he universalizes it, he sees and purifies, gets the main point, right? He talked about Pada Bhakti, and then he says, but that Pada Bhakti, supreme devotion, if you're looking for that or you taste that, everything else falls away. So he says, we know when he said Vairagya Dao, give me renunciation. Vivek Dao, give me discernment, discrimination, right? But Vairagya Dao, it's like, well, it seems we don't like this word Vairagya. It seems very negative. Even if it is like it's a very anti. You have to renounce this passion. Even this passion is a very we want passion, not this passion, right? It seems to be against, come and goes our nature. It was in Bhakti, Thakur mentioned, and Swamiji brings out that automatically you have renunciation. By love of God, by looking to it, by focusing on the higher, the lower naturally fall away without much struggle, right? And that's another one of the great benefits of Bhakti, right? And he says, but actually, and then he says that everywhere you see love, right? It's not just in the temple. Here, hopefully, we see a little bit of love and devotion. You'd expect that here. This is what this place is for, right? But he saw it. Swamiji's broadness of mind and heart, and Thakur's broadness of mind and heart, right? He says we see love everywhere in nature, whether in society, whatever in society is good and grand and sublime is a working of that love. So that you'd expect. Anything great is a working out of that love. It says, whatever in society is very bad, nay, diabolical. People don't use the word diabolical a lot. I love that word. Diabolical is also the ill-directed working of that same sense of love. Therefore, love, the intense longing for, this is a great definition. Therefore, love, the intense longing for association, the strong desire on the part of two to become one, right? And it may be, after all, of all to become merged in one, is being manifested everywhere in higher and lower forms, as the case may be. Definition of love: the desire for the two to become one, the desire for longing for association, These are beautiful definitions, right? Everywhere we see it, right? Bhakti, and so that's true everywhere in the beautiful and the sublime, in the evil, ugly, and diabolical. Still, not everything is bhakti, right? Bhakti is something special, right? Bhakti yoga is a science of higher love. It shows us how to direct it. It shows us how to control it, how to manage it, how to use it, how to give it a new aim, as it were, and from it obtain the highest and most glorious results. That is, how to make it lead us to spiritual blessedness. Our natural love by Bhakti Yoga, through the Guru, Scripture, and tradition, to direct all of our love and affection, our natural love and affection, towards the one that would bring us spiritual blessedness. Bhakti Yoga does not say, Swamiji says, give up. It only says love. Love the highest. And everything low naturally falls away from him, the object of whose love is the highest. Beautiful. Right. So then I want to, we can, now it's officially past my time. There's one of the gems that I've never read anywhere else. Maybe Swamiji's quoting from like, but it's called the Triangle of Love's Triangle. You know this chapter, right? Small chapter is so beautiful. It says, but each one of these things, I've never heard them collected this way. Each one is directly summarizing teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, right? First, love knows no bargaining. Right? When you heard this, the love's triangle. I'll mention for in summary. Love knows no bargaining. Love knows no fear. Love knows no rival. He said the triangle. These are the three lines of love, the triangle, right? So love knows no bargaining. It's like within love, it's not Ramakrishna called it a shopkeeper. Swamiji called it a shopkeeper's religion, and it said that I'll love you, and if you give me this, right? You know, and you can see even Swamiji went to Kali. I'll worship you if you help my family, right? So the thing is that that's not exactly the same thing, right? Because it's not that praying to God to bless your family is wrong, right? It's actually really intelligent. The source of all blessings is God. Even praying for money is not wrong. The source of all money is God, right? But this is not, that shouldn't be the only motivation for religion. If you love your mother and you're just like, you're in trouble, Ma, please help me. Who am I going to go to? That's natural. That's not critiquable. But religion can be very much polluted with this, just like you do this, you get this result. This type of bargaining is not the same type of love. There's no love, no bargaining. Love knows no fear. So Swamiji made many statements, many places that we replace the fear of God with the love of God, right? We should be God-loving. Of course, by fear, people say, oh, you're a God-fearing person, right? Usually that means one who takes religion seriously. It's not necessarily that they're shivering and worshiping because they think they're going to be struck down or something. But sometimes it means you're fearing you're going to be struck down. So Swamiji says, love conquers fear. So if you're still afraid, that means you haven't gotten love yet. Where there's love, fear disappears. Even the fear of the one, especially the fear of the one you're loving, that doesn't seem right. Right? The only fear should be not loving, right? Losing that connection. Maybe that should be fearful. Love conquers fear. Fear comes from a selfish idea of cutting oneself off in the universe. The smaller and more selfish I make myself, the greater is my fear. So long as there is the least spark of fear in you, there can be no love. Love and fear are incompatible. That's a big statement. I sometimes think if I'm scared, or I think you have one, compare where the other one is. They're incompatible, right? God is never to be feared by those who love Him. Right? You could say, oh, love and hate. Is love and hate compatible? That doesn't seem right either, right? Rabia, that Muslim saint, we only have 3 or 4 statements of hers. One of which is she was asked, "Do you love God?" Yes. "Do you hate the devil?" No. Why not? We're told, love God, hate the devil. Says, God has removed all hatred in my heart, right? Because she doesn't even hate the devil, right? Because she loves God so much, there's no hatred left. No hatred left for the devil, right? So even that's a beautiful thing. Then the third point is love knows no rival. Love, of course, somebody says, love knows no rival, for it is always embedded. So it is always embedded the lover's highest ideal. True love never comes until the object of our love becomes to us our highest ideal. It may be, in many cases, that human love is misdirected and misplaced, But to the person who loves, the thing he loves is always the highest ideal. Whatever we're loving, we think it's the highest, otherwise we wouldn't love it, right? But God, the definition of God is God to every human being, the highest ideal is God. That's the highest possible ideal. It means two things. There's a Saint Anselm, he made a comment that the highest possible idea is God. That's what we mean by God. But whatever we consider to be highest, we worship that God, both, right? Every human being, the highest ideal is God. The synthesis of all the highest ideals of beauty, of sublimity, and of power gives us the completest conception of a loving and lovable God, right? So the synthesis, the combination of everything that the highest ideas and ideals of beauty, of sublimity, and of power gives us the completest conception of a loving and lovable God. This two things, loving and lovable. Actually, even a lot of traditions that talk about, oh, we live in God's love,
Yeah.
right? That's different than Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is loving that God, right? It's not just that we're, because the Bhaktas will say, even if you don't love me, Lord, I shall love you because you're lovable. It's a nature of myself to love, even if you ignore me. In the Lord Chaitanya's prayer is like, even if you are not, even if you withdraw thy presence, destroying, shattering my heart, what is it? Until my heart's torn asunder, but I shall worship you forever. Right? That's the Bhakti Yoga is the other side of this. We're accustomed to hearing living in God's love, loving, right? But even if God's not loving, we need to love her, right? Even if it's the need of to be of a needle to be attracted, right? So Swamiji, so I'll conclude because I'm past time, but actually the chapter called conclusion, right? There's a couple of paragraphs on the conclusion. When this highest ideal of love is reached, philosophy is thrown away. Who will care for it? Salvation, freedom, salvation, nirvana, all are thrown away. Who cares to become free when in the enjoyment of divine love? Right? Lord, I do not want, and then he quotes, Lord, I do not want wealth or beauty or friends or beauty or learning or even freedom. Let me be born again, and be thou ever my love. Be thou ever and ever my love. This, I think, is probably before Bhajananda's translation. Another somebody free translating Chaitanya's prayer, a verse from Sri Shastakam, I think. Because many times I may be reborn, grant me, a Lord, steadfast love for thee. That's something like this, he's saying. Then he says, now quoting directly Sri Ramakrishna, who cares to become sugar? Says the Bhakta, I want to taste sugar. Who will then desire to become one with God? I may know that I am he, yet I will take myself away from him and become different so that I may enjoy the beloved. So it's giving such importance to that experience of union, that experience of union is so great that one's willing even to renounce actual union, right? The experience of union, very interesting, right? Act identification. That is what the Bhakta says. So I could put the opening line on that before I'm going to go back to that final thing here. Bhakti Yoga, sorry. Bhakti Yoga is a real, genuine search for the Lord, a search beginning, continuing, and ending in love. One single moment of this madness of extreme love of God brings us eternal freedom. And Swami ends. That is what the Bhakta says. Love for love's sake is his highest enjoyment. Who would not be bound hand and foot 1,000 times over to enjoy the beloved? What do I say? Who would be willing to be bound hand and foot 1,000 times in order to enjoy the beloved? So Swamiji didn't always talk in this strain. He had different messages for different audiences, and he presented a vast reservoir of a library. We will take, what do you say, Swami Chaitanya last night quoted, I've given enough for 10,000 years, right, in my 9 volume. And then his recorded material, it will take thousands of years to untangle it, to understand what I've said, right? He also said this, right? We shouldn't lose this little book right? And our emphasis sometimes in the Vedanta, we sometimes focus a little differently, right? But this is also important. I mean, I think if we put this in Swamiji's own mouth, he'd be willing to be tied hand and foot, right, in order to have union and to enjoy the beloved. So a short meditation. Thank you for being patient and going over a little bit, and for your kind attention. So we offer these words at Swamiji's feet, and I was thinking on the drive over here. One last point, not in my notes, but one last point, is that Swamiji gave us so many things. He said Vedanta and Bhakti Yoga, right? He gave us a new ideal. He gave us a universal vision, a way of understanding religious diversity, point for point. How to withstand how our religion can withstand the challenges of the modern moment, the scientific critique, and so many things. He's given us everything. But I think the greatest gift he's given us Sri Ramakrishna, right? If it wasn't for Swamiji, some people here would have known Sri Ramakrishna, maybe, right? For some of us, and even people in India may have not known him unless some of you can. So many gurus come and go, even great people people may have been people consider avatars. Their names are barely remembered, right? Swamiji made Thakur known, right? In India, of course, but even to us here in a little on the outskirts of on the border, a few miles from Mexico here in San Diego, little house, and here there's a gathering worshiping Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, right? So this is his great gift. He's given us Sri Ramakrishna, and with Sri Ramakrishna, Thakur said, right, those who meditate upon me, right, we're trying to meditate upon him, inherit my wealth. As a son inherits the wealth of his father. He says, what is my wealth? It's not, Thakur did not die with a lot of money left to inherit, right? He says it's his, look at Swamiji's message, or his prayer, Jnana, Vairagya, Bhakti, right? They inherit my devotion, my renunciation, my love for God. This is his wealth, right? So this is, I think, Swamiji has made us all, made us all ability to inherit Thakur as well. So this is because we love Swamiji, we've learned to love Swamiji over the years more and more as we tune to his message and continue to dive into his life and his teachings. Every time we're more thrilled and more impressed and amazed, right? But really, the thing I'm most thankful for Vivekananda is that because of Vivekananda we have Sri Ramakrishna, right? And so, with that, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji ki Jai, Jai Mahamaya ki Jai, Swamiji Maharaj Ji ki Jai, Jai Mo, Jai Mo, Jai Mo. Hari Om, Tat Sat.
Thank you, Swamiji, so much.
Jai Mo.
Swami, I'm going to ask you one thing, but I'd like just a very short answer.
Okay.
Okay.
Then you're. I don't want to insult you, but that's not an intelligent thing.
No, because our stomachs are calling.
Yeah.
Mother's calling our stomachs. But
yep.
I want to say that today you talked about bhakti. So, do you think, in comparison to sometimes what we hear about Vedanta or let's say Advaita, it's called, is the instrument more of one's mind? We're using viveka, discernment. We're using letting go. Compared to bhakti, is it more opening one's heart? Is the channel different? Meaning, here in bhakti, you're talking, is it more about feelings? Is it more about reflecting, leaning into the divine, using the experience of what we call the heart as a way to open ourselves up to feel into that, as opposed to the channel of the mind? Can you just give a short?
Yeah, well, this is my struggle since I was. Yeah,
I know.
It's a good topic.
But what's the opening towards bhakti? Today's topic is bhakti.
So to me, the image I keep coming back to is that of that bhakti is natural, right? It's a nature of the soul. Right. Yeah. That the idea of washing the needle,
mud,
right?
Yeah.
So in Chaitanya's prayer Shashtakam, there's another verse, Chetu Darpana. It says that the mirror of the heart must be wiped. I think the translation is the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean, right? So like Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, right? As a chant, it's translated as chant the name of the Lord glorious and ceasingly. Exactly this Krishna Sankirtana, this chanting of Krishna's name, one of the things that it polishes the mirror, Chaita Darpana, right? And so that language of mirror is the language of the mind, right? And the mind and heart, we in the Western tradition, we have a big, maybe because our mind, literally we're bifurcated. We have our mind and heart are differently. But in old language, mind and heart, manas is the heart. You'll see Swami Chaitanya will say, we said, Thakur says you have no, that your speech and mind must be one. He does this. Because the word for mind and heart is the same. We make a big thing. Oh no, mind's up here in the heart. See, it's how far apart they are. That's our problem. We've made them very far apart, but they're the same. They're the core, right? The soul, the heart, the mind is the core. Is the essential, the essence of our being, right? And so that image of polishing the mirror of the mind, right? When you see two things happen. Of course, we cannot see properly when a mirror is dirty. Right, that's one problem, right? But also, when we look into a dirty mirror and we look at our face, one thing we don't see our face clearly because of the dirt. But if we see our face, we see a dirty face, right? So that's a very mysterious. Actually, by cleaning the mirror, then all of a sudden you're cleaning your own face, because pretty soon the dirt, you no longer see a dirty face, right? So the cleaning of the mind is bringing out what's already there. We see something that's not there, just like the mud over the needle. Right, the mud and the mirror of the mind. It's the same type of thing, right? And in the classical Vedanta, of course, we have our own method and culture. Swamiji and the Swamis have presented their own flavor of describing the methodology of Vedanta. But the classical idea of Vedanta is that the truth, we are already that, right? The self is there, but we don't see it, right? And the scriptures simply state that, like, for instance, the states that Tattvamasi, you are that. So we hear it. What happens when we know it? We don't know it. So there's some problems. We have the classical commentators say we don't understand what's being said. So we have to clarify. That's why it's a little intellectual. What's the grammar? What is being said? Right? We may have doubts, so we need doubts removed. That's like that. And we're not sattvic, right? Until sattvic in the mind's not sattvic, predominantly sattvic, this truth will not shine. The mirror has to be cleaned, right? So the methods of sadhana are removal of doubts, clarification of the points being said, and sadhana, purification of the mind and heart. The same thing in bhakti. It's going to be, it maybe won't use the same language of the mind, but it's ultimately purification, I would say, of the mind and heart, because it's the one thing, right? So in one sense, that may be the flowing of the uncovering of the natural devotion of the heart, or knowledge of the self, or what the self is. The paths seem different. But Swamiji says he describes the path different, but their end goal is the same, right? I'm not quite sure how real different they are, though, right? Even the path there, maybe it's just a matter of emphasis, right? We all have different qualities. Maybe we emphasize different things. And Thakur also seen some people have what he said, the nature of Shiva. Some people have the nature of, are born from the nature of Vishnu, and therefore so people tend towards one or the other. Right, there seems maybe ontologically, maybe we're born with a certain tendency, so that's our path, right? But you don't get jnana without bhakti, really, and you don't have bhakti without jnana also, right? So I'm not quite sure. I'm also struggling. I remember I asked one of my brother disciples, my guru bhais, in high school, because I was always torn between jnana yoga and bhakti yoga, still torn between jnana yoga and bhakti yoga. And I wrote, I said, Swamiji, and I was hoping he'd write me back, oh, they're the same. Right, and I was some way to put it together. He wrote back a very disappointing letter. He says, "Find the one truth either by bhakti or by jnana." No, I can't do that. It's my problem. So I've had to come to my own understanding. Maybe not the same. So, and sometimes I think it's just because of the Western culture and the Western dominant philosophical culture, right? That Swamiji had to maybe emphasize a lot of emphasis on jnana. That was a need. The language, the audience, right? But you can see throughout even his talks on jnana, he did it out of love, and he's talking about love, right? So
I wonder sometimes when I'm talking is that in jnana, is it more do we emphasize more thoughts in the annihilation, let's say, of thoughts here, and in bhakti do we emphasize more feelings, emotions?
Well,
and that does
in jnana, thinking is not the goal of jnana. It's a methodology.
Right.
That's all right.
So
the goal
the-
of jnana is
right, absolutely.
is direct experience.
So the methodology, though, is
understanding
what
it.
we're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
here. So,
But also, like, so it just
so when
like
I say instrument of knowing,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
sometimes the heart is an instrument of
Yeah,
knowing, just
yeah.
like the mind's an instrument of knowing.
Yeah.
Are these, ultimately it's one, ultimately it is
Yeah.
your direct, but are the channels sort of, the approach is different.
So Sri Ramakrishna used the reason I was struggling with that when I wrote that letter when I was 17 to that Swami brother of ours, is because I read in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna not to dig in two places. You know, the example of digging. You know, we dig. It's like if I doing bhakti yoga practices, that seems so different by flavor and temperament, and and the method's different, but the goal seems to be different. And if I'm doing jnana yoga practices, which that Swamiji was teaching, how to, you know, I'm digging in the wrong in two different places, right? You have to dig in one place. But I've come maybe for those of us who have a mixture of these things, right, or see a mixture. Sometimes I don't think it's digging into. Maybe it's using different tools to dig in the same place. That's how I kind of think. So I don't think analytical study, the difference between the knower and the known, and those classical things we're doing, right, and mantra and puja and singing, they're just different tools to dig at the exact same place, right? That's the only way I can understand it. And sometimes, you know, if you're digging and all of a sudden you get to a rock and you know your little spoon where you go get a crowbar to pull it out. It's like, no, crowbar. My guru didn't mention a crowbar, and now I'm deviating. I'm deviating from the path. No, there's something I have to use my head, get that out, and you never know. As long as I don't change where I'm digging, I think that's the main. Where we lose. Even that's not wrong, but you end up losing. Nothing wrong about digging in a different place, but you lose your energy. No, and you never find your.
Absolutely right. It's the different instruments in the same.
I think that's the only way I've been able to understand it.
I'm reminded that in the Katamrita, there was one point where Thakur described the Jnani, they're flowing so steadily down the Ganga. But then the Bhakta is laughing, crying, dancing, and bobbing up and down. And everyone laughs. So they're both flowing, but one's just very serenely, almost seemingly. The other one seemingly is more chaotic. It's you're still
so in that one, the goal is the same. They're both going to the river, and the path of those are the same. But
it's a experience.
The experience will be different.
Right.
Some like to laugh and goof and splash. Others like, stop doing that. You're making me. I want a peaceful trip.
It reminded me when I was in Belumat. You know, you have a line of swamis with the what do you call the sort of the Gandhi type. When there's a row of swamis still collectively together, when they eat, they're just like swaha. Each food is going into and there's a real seriousness about the silence in that row. And the next row over, these are devotees of Thakur and Swamiji. They're laughing and they're crying and they're joking, and they're calling each other names, but they have this like conviction that at the end of their life they know they're going to Thakur or Mother. So they just have this belief. They're going to enjoy the ride. So anyways.
But you also, Thakur would have been. What did Thakur himself pray? I had only a few prayers to my mother. He says, "May I not be he says, may I be known as two things: be the king of ecstatic lovers, and not become a dry ascetic." Right? He would have been the one dancing and laughing.
Exactly.
My first trip to India Maharaj, it was on Sri Ramakrishna's birthday celebration at Bellarmont. And early, there's all the circumambulations. So the grounds had not opened yet. And you just had the order, the monastics, all the monks, and it was like
they're dancing and singing.
They're like dancing and this elderly Swami, an elderly senior monk, he had a full-sized harmonium. Not full, but with a strap on it. Jerry rigged
it. Chaitanya's birthday, right?
No, just Ramakrishna's birthday.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They do it on those days.
He was standing. They were circumambulating, and he had this full-size harmonium, carrying it across the shoulder, and it was just so ecstatic to see that other side of Ramakrishna Swami.
So their work requires something. Right, but the inner spirit. The thing is, the inner spirit. I mean, I don't really care about to tell everybody what the inner spirit of Ramakrishna is. You know, that's a dangerous thing to do, right? But you know, it's like Sri Ramakrishna is the dance around the temple, absolutely, right? But we're all here because of because the ones who came to teach us right, they knew just the right thing to say and the necessary thing at that moment. But also that moment is changing. Every moment is changing, right? So that's why I think we can give a talk. So Swamiji himself gave this. It's not like, oh, Swami Chaitanya, Swami Bhajanananda is being really controversial and is updating Swami Vivekananda. You know, it's like, no, I'm quoting Swami Vivekananda. He gave over 100 years ago this talk, these talks. But he himself gave these things, you know. But they're not. But there's I think the fact that they haven't been emphasized, right? And this is not his most popular book. It's my favorite book, not his most popular book. Means a symbol of the time at that time. And also the lingering symbol of this time. It's also, I feel, is shifting. So I think that's why we focus. I speak on this text more often and read it again and again. Because I realize there's really quite, you know, like you mentioned that it's very jnana also. It's an intellectual Vedantic talk, but within it is the full magic is available. He's pointing to it. Whether or not, but who's his audience? He's not talking. Like here we have an intimate group of bhaktas. He used public lectures in halls, right? Who's understanding? But at least he recorded them and he said it. These words were spoken. Who knows who understood? And they've been recorded. So you know, whether or not the audience could get it, I don't know. We got it either. You know, we're still trying to get it, right? But
Thank you,
all right.
Thank you.